They were warned to prepare, but how do you prepare for this? Water pouring through this home, and all the owner can do is helplessly watch a live feed on camera. Hurricane Ida has well and truly arrived now, bringing 240-kilometre-an-hour winds and chaos to Louisiana.
The storm is a life-threatening storm.
The big one hits the Big Easy. 16 years to the day since Katrina arrived in New Orleans, killing more than 1,800 people and causing billions of dollars worth of damage. Now a storm that hit land with even more power. To give an idea, that is a picnic table between those poles, the water just pouring over the top. Up in the skies, this flight taking us into the eye of the storm. It is calm up there, but what a difference on the ground. Hurricane Ida's path is taking her around the western side of New Orleans, which means this city is being hit by the winds from the eastern side of the storm, and that is not a place you want to be in the midst of a Category 4 hurricane, because those eastern winds tend to be stronger, they tend to be more powerful and cause much more devastation, and the risks here are huge. Everything from debris flying through the air to fences coming loose and hitting people to downed power lines, and that's before we even get onto the subject of the water, the flooding from the rain and those storm surges. Which is what we saw with Hurricane Katrina, where 80% of this city ended up submerged. New Orleans told to evacuate in case this happened again. In central areas, it was voluntary.
Governor Edwards, an old friend, has characterized it as one of the strongest hurricanes, the strongest in Louisiana history since 1850. And its devastation is likely to be immense. We shouldn't kid ourselves.
In lower lying areas, it was mandatory, and still some stayed.
I would say half the neighborhood is staying and the other half is evacuated. So it's more just to kind of be here to help.
As the storm heads north, it'll be hours before the extent of the devastation becomes clear. Most are hunkering down, but some refuse. The hurricanes may cause damage and death, but in true style, New Orleans refuses to give in.
Well, we can speak to Phil Lavelle. He is live for us in New Orleans. Some dramatic footage there in your package. What is the situation where you are now?
Situation right now is that we are in complete darkness. The power went off a couple of hours ago. This is the French Quarter, so this is a place where they typically don't lose power, but we have. I mean, it's been like this for hours. There is a few lights in the distance. Some businesses are lucky enough to have their own generators, but they are few and far between, and the entire city is now in darkness. What's more is we are told by the authorities here that this could last for weeks. There may not be any power for weeks. They are calling it a catastrophic transmission failure. And there are all of the knock-on effects from that. This isn't just about not being able to charge your phone. This is about serious stuff. We know of an ICU unit treating COVID patients that is now without power. They are struggling to treat those patients because where do you take them in the midst of a hurricane? You can't take them outside. These are people who need power. We know that in some areas, the 911 emergency lines are down. Nobody can call them because they rely on power. And of course, there are those people who are trapped in their homes. The temperature in the last hour or so has really plummeted here. It's been hot and humid all day, as is often the case here in Louisiana. Now, because of the rains, it is pretty cold, so people will not even be able to heat their homes, and they have water pouring in. The hurricane has now been downgraded. It's now Category 3. So, I mean, you could say that is good news, if you could call it that, because it was Category 4, bordering on Category 5 before. But those rains are still coming so heavily. I mean, it has been raining here non-stop for 8 hours, and it is heavy rain. This road here is like an absolute river. It is coming down in sheets. It is pouring into basements. And this is, like, as I say, this is the French Quarter. We're here on higher ground. There are those people who are in the areas where the flood defences are not going to be helping, who are going to be having water pouring into their homes. One estimate said earlier today that we were expecting 2.7 to 3 meters of water in some areas. Now, to put that into context, if you have 1.2 meters pour into your home, that is a very bad day. Your home, your ground floor will be ruined. 2.7 to 3 meters means an entire floor is completely submerged. In those cases, you have to move to a higher ground. You have to move to another floor. If you are not lucky enough to have another floor, if you live in a single-story home, as many people do here, then the only option is to go to the roof. So we are expecting people in the dark to be sitting on their roofs because they have no other option. They have to save their lives by climbing to higher ground. And we've been told by the authorities that you're essentially on your own for at least 72 hours. You should have enough food, you should have enough water, you should have enough backup power supply to look after yourself for 3 days, because, as I say, this is across the entire city now. This could go on for quite some time.
Many thanks for that, Phil Lavelle in New Orleans, describing a very, very challenging situation for the people living in Louisiana and the surrounding areas.